Hello everybody, welcome back for another video. Hope you're all doing well and that you're all having a great day. This is more or less going to be a country hop video. There's something very odd happening, at least for me, in the world right now. A lot of the things we spoke about even just 2 or 3 weeks ago that I said I thought would happen are actually happening. Without further ado, let's jump right into it. The head of the U.S. Commodity Futures Trading Commission, or the CFTC, told Congress on Wednesday that the agency is falling behind on the subject of blockchain compared to other countries. Chairman J. Christopher Giancarlo was speaking before the House Committee on Agriculture, addressing questions about the agency's performance and future agenda. It was during that time that the chairman fielded a question about blockchain. He noted that the regulator is hamstrung in certain ways. For example, Giancarlo said that the CFTC can't operate a node on a blockchain operated by a banking consortium, despite being invited by those institutions, because the sharing of information and data is considered a gift and therefore is something the CFTC can't accept. Similarly, the CFTC cannot purchase or rent the ability to run a node because it would require an appropriations bill through Congress. As a result, he said, by the time we go through all of that, this thing is already launched. Remember I said before, I'm pretty sure that the U.S. is going to, at this point at least, fall behind in the cryptocurrency space. It is all but definite. You'll definitely see as I go forward. Instead, he advocated for a bill introduced by, I guess, Representative Austin Scott, which would grant the regulator the ability to accept shared data, something that would give the CFTC a leg up on the topic. He said we're falling behind. Just 2 days ago, the Bank of England announced that they're putting in a new bank-to-bank payment system in the UK and is going to be blockchain compliant. He said, and I do quote, "The Bank of England has had 4 years to participate in all these blockchain beta tests that we have not been able to participate in, and they've been able to get comfortable with the technology, and now they're incorporating it. I feel we're 4 years behind because we do need to test it. We do need to understand it so we can do a better job as regulators. Before I then came to Congress and say we need money to build anything," end quote. The ironic part is that Michael Conaway quipped is that the CFTC does have legal authority to demand information after the blockchain is launched, but current laws prevent the regulator from looking at the information prior to that point. Giancarlo agreed, saying, "We do have subpoena authority, but that's probably the wrong way to get involved." I think what's happening now is, or what I think has been happening for quite some time, I know I've said this before, I don't know how many of you have paid attention or cared as I was saying it, cryptocurrencies weren't taken seriously for an enormous amount of time. By the time I got into crypto, the only whispers about it were kind of like on the news, and it was people talking about Mt. Gox, or it was never anything heavy. When other countries started slowly looking into it, or even other places around the world, there were like news articles about this cafe or this burger place now accepts Bitcoin, or this does this. There was never really any news like that coming out of the US. And I think that they thought for a long time that crypto just wouldn't be anything. I don't know if it was just ignorance, lack of information. They didn't care or want to know more about it. You know, when you control something for quite a long time, especially if it's been hundreds of years, and you think that you have continuous power, and then someone creates something that other people are saying can then thwart your power or get you out of power, I don't think you really care too much about it. If you notice, as the guy was talking, as I was reading through it, he was saying, you know, we can do this, but we can't do this. They can't run a node and they can't do this. And it's like, over the course of a 4-year period, it's not really that difficult to write a new bill or something into law that says the CFTC can operate a node. It's really not that difficult. They probably didn't even have blockchain nodes before or know what they were. So it's fairly easy to be able to do these things. And the fact that it's considered, the sharing of information and data is considered a gift, and therefore the CFTC can accept it, is kind of weird. I am still of the mindset, I think at this point, what it's coming down to, and even the fact that the US government still hasn't given us any information or like proper information when it comes down to what cryptocurrencies are in the country, what is going to be regulated and what isn't, is I don't know if they're either scrambling to desperately get this information together, but as someone who lived in the States before and I have a number of friends in the States, I'm fairly certain I don't think they're even I think they still think that it's going to be a passing fad, or like there's something that won't have as much impact as other people are saying. I was reading, I try to read crypto books and stuff like that when I can. And when you read these books on crypto, they talk about the incremental power of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, as far as, you know, we may have 100 people using it today. Tomorrow we may have 105, and then those 105 tell their friends, and then we have 210, and it continues to go on from there. I think that they are underplaying exactly how big crypto is going to be, at least in the States. As I read through the rest of it, you'll kind of see that there's a very different mindset as to what crypto is and what crypto is going to be. When I read these books, and I like to read white papers as well, just to know exactly what, like I always say, what I have my money in, even like what the technology is, to be able to even just speak about it a little bit, to know how the process goes. You understand that crypto is actually going to change the world. We can see the changes now. It's more or less like a child shaking a rattle. So it's kind of all over the place. You know, we have good and bad days, you know, so there's like a huge friction when it comes to what's going on. But the fact that it's being integrated by other countries, that other countries are constantly talking about it, that we're having these huge meetings on it, is very significant. But the interesting part, that the more or less the most powerful country in the world, that they haven't taken the first steps to make sure that they're in first place, is going to be a very interesting couple of years. I think if by the end of this year we still haven't gotten any type of proper clarity, I think the US is probably going to noticeably fall behind. The friend who I always talk to, the one who I always mention, we always talk about crypto regulations and when this will happen, and when the SEC will probably come up with this information, or when this, you know, the whole time frame that we kind of give a lot of things. He thinks that crypto probably won't be regulated for another 5 or 6 years. Remember sometime at the beginning of this year, we were told by members of the SEC that we would have regulations by summer, and then we were told we would have it by July. This was all in January when they were telling us this. And then at some point around February or March, we had a lot of news. I don't know who was here for those videos. There was a woman from the SEC or the CFTC who said that she expects that we may not even have crypto regulations for possibly minimum 18 months. And then I think we had news that Bitcoin wasn't a security and Ethereum wasn't a security. And I was like, okay, well, I guess, you know, maybe she was downplaying it. Maybe we are going to have a lot more news and all this other stuff than we previously thought. But I think that's as far as it's going to get right now. He's of the mindset that we have around 5 or 6 years. That woman even said 18 months from where we were before minimum. I think, yeah, not to spend too much time on this one topic, because there's definitely a lot of other like really crazy stuff happening as well. But the US, I think they're going to be left behind. And if we do have a future, like I've been reading in these books, I mean, they're not like, you know, Bitcoin will rule the world type things, but it's like to the point where at least 2 to 3% of the entire world's population either owns Bitcoin or is dealing in Bitcoin. I have a feeling that the US will then end up trying to scramble, trying to get themselves in the game, while every other country has already had this integrated into their systems for the last 5 or 6 years. Is just kind of how I feel about it. But it's kind of evident, unless something shocking happens and we happen to get like some really crazy news over the next couple of weeks from US regulators about what's supposed to happen, because everyone is talking about that they're going to have the news by September or something like that. September or October. I think this is like when the G20 countries were talking about it. Then at that point, I think that there will definitely be another king of industry as far as when it comes to crypto. And it definitely won't be the US then. So Korea is in the news, and this also kind of ties into the first part. I'll explain. The government of South Korea and local financial authorities are planning to pass the country's first crypto and blockchain legislation as early as possible to legitimize and strictly oversee the local cryptocurrency industry. The newly drafted regulatory framework, which covers a wide range of businesses and ventures from blockchain projects to crypto exchanges, is expected to fuel the development and deployment of decentralized applications, or dApps, and facilitate the rapid growth of cryptocurrency exchanges in the local market. Hong Seong-ki, who is the head of virtual currency response team at the country's main financial agency, Financial Services Commission, or the FSC, said in an interview with Bloomberg that cryptocurrency exchanges in South Korea are not ready to store and manage billions of dollars in crypto assets, such as Bitcoin and Ether, due to their substandard security measures. They've said this multiple times before. In June alone, two major South Korean exchanges, Bithumb and CoinRail, were hacked, each losing more than $40 million in user funds. Fortunately, both trading platforms had enough capital to cover the amount stolen by hackers whose identities still remain unknown. They said, while crypto markets have seen rapid growth, such trading platforms don't seem to be well enough prepared in terms of security. We're trying to legitimize the most urgent and important things first, aiming for money laundering prevention and investor protection. The bill should be passed as soon as possible. This was said by Hong. Throughout the past 2 years, the government of South Korea has contemplated the potential outcome of regulating cryptocurrency businesses and the blockchain sector and refused to pass a proper policy to regulate the cryptocurrency market because it feared that investors in South Korea would consider it as an act of endorsement and acknowledgement of cryptocurrencies. Not going to really read much more. This was kind of the major important part of everything around here. We had news about that as well. When the cryptocurrency market was nearing $1 trillion, we had news from South Korea that they were thinking about banning cryptocurrencies. This, of course, turned out to be false because all the other news that we heard about them or any other country trying to ban cryptocurrencies was completely fake. And I said it was happening too closely together. Every time that one country said something, the next day there was another country saying something. And then we found out that the South Korean government said out loud that they didn't want to give proper legislation for cryptocurrencies because they feared that it would legitimize the space and that the people in South Korea would then think, okay, the government has said yes to this, therefore we can run amok and we can go absolutely crazy with this. Part of what I think took place or has taken place or maybe at the very end of taking place is that one, South Korea understands what's happening with cryptocurrencies between China, between Japan, between what's happening in Europe, and between what's happening in other smaller countries who are kind of getting what's going on, and they're slowly integrating this into their countries. I think South Korea understands that this is going to be major, so they understand that they have a not even a need or right, like they have to do this before they end up falling behind. The second part is that they completely lost my train of thought. This always ends up happening. The point is, as prices were going down, I think the US and South Korea and a number of other countries thought that people would lose interest in crypto. To be fair, a lot of people have. I'm sure you've noticed people who may have been asking you before about how to buy Bitcoin or how to buy an Ether have completely stopped. You no longer get these messages on your phone. You no longer get them in your Facebook mail thingy, whatever it's called, in your messenger. I'm sure you've noticed they've slowed down quite a bit. And I have a feeling all the news that we got from people like Warren Buffett, from the people behind JP Morgan Chase about crypto being a bubble, and then us going from 20,000 to, 5,800, the lowest that Bitcoin hit. This is constantly why we had in the news that the bubble had popped, that everything was completely over. And, this is kind of this legitimizes their idea that crypto was just a bubble, that everything was just wrong, and that people would end up losing faith or confidence in it, so they didn't have to legitimize it, because we've had, a lot of bumps in the cryptocurrency world. So it seems to me, the way that I perceive the news, the way that I've been reading it is, I think when we got towards $1 trillion, they thought, okay, crap, we've not been paying attention to this for the past 2 or 3, 4 years. We have to do something. And as prices continue to slide down, the need or, my brain is all over the place. It's still very hot here. So excuse me, it's really like horribly uncomfortable. The point is, this need or desire that they felt or they thought that they had to kind of give crypto regulation kind of fell into the background as prices continue to slow down, because I think that they thought people like Warren Buffett have to be correct. This is all a hack. This is all completely fake. And this is why I think for a 7 or 8 month period, we had no news about regulation. We had news about it's coming. And now the fact that I think the market is expected to heat back up, or the fact that all these hacks and stuff have been happening, who knows exactly what it is. But this is kind of how I feel. I'm sure even if you don't agree with me, I'm sure you understand kind of what I'm saying. This has been happening a lot as well. And now as I continue on, you'll see a bit more of the what's happening in the cryptocurrency space. And if this is just what we hear, or that the news that we are allowed to see, or that we end up getting, I can only imagine what's actually happening behind closed doors, because no part of me would be surprised if there are a number of other countries who have already discussed the possibility of integrating crypto into their own systems. There are a lot of countries that are not doing very well economically that are completely falling apart, that have not even hyperinflation, that are just completely falling apart. And I'm sure at some point the idea has crossed their minds to either create their own crypto or to integrate some other type of cryptocurrency. I'm sure it was shut down by their governments, but as far as a lot of things that I've been reading, this is projected to actually end up happening by the year 2025. And it's mainly because of the growth of the crypto market and the stability that Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies will be able to offer world governments. Not to spend, once again, too much time on this, but for me, it feels like all the pieces of a puzzle are like slowly fitting into place. You know, like when you have a puzzle and you like dump it onto the floor and it looks completely crazy, and then you slowly get the outside and you start putting the other pieces inside, you know, you kind of get the bigger picture of what it's supposed to look like. Everything that I've been reading, everything that I've been seeing, everything that I've been absorbing the information from, it's clear that something big is going to happen. And I think they're scrambling now because they thought for so long that this was just child's play. This was nothing more than, you know, a bunch of nerds sitting in a room trading numbers back and forth. And now they understand that because the world's debt is so out of control, that this is going to be a major player in every single type of market in the world. So this one's actually pretty interesting as well. A new cryptocurrency exchange is set to launch with no fee trading, and it's got some notable backers behind it. Voyager, according to a report from Fortune, is founded by the co-founder of Uber, Oscar Salazar, as one of the ride-hailing app's early investors, Philip Aiton. Voyager CEO is Stefan Elric, the former CEO and founder of retail brokerage Lightspeed Financial, who also previously ran the professional trading arm for online stockbroker E-Trade before it was brought by Lightspeed. The focus on no-fee trading is a notable one, putting Voyager in the same class as trading app Robinhood that is seeking to upend the market status quo by stripping away some of the costs associated with trading cryptocurrencies. To start, Voyager plans to list 15 cryptocurrencies drawn from the list of the 25 best-performing networks, including Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Bitcoin Cash, among others. Eric told Fortune that Voyager is leaning towards including such cryptocurrencies as XRP and Stellar Lumens, which are not listed by major U.S. exchanges so far. He said, if you see it being traded today by some of the most prominent players, we will definitely have those plus some. I spoke about that. First of all, I said this exact thing yesterday. I get wanting to get into the cryptocurrency space. I get wanting to profit. I get wanting to make your own crypto exchange. I get wanting to, you know, be one of the big players in the space. You know, we always have news about these major backers who made other companies and the fortunes and stuff like that wanted to get into cryptocurrency space. It bothers me so much that we have, and I really, and I mean from the bottom of my heart, and I don't mean XRP. I don't care what you think. I really don't mean XRP in this case. I'm so tired of these being the only coins that are constantly listed on every single new exchange. It's always Bitcoin, Ethereum, Bitcoin Cash, Litecoin, and Ethereum Classic as the first coins that they end up putting on. The fact that he said that we're leaning towards including XRP and Stellar Lumens, why not just add XRP and Stellar Lumens? Like, who are you performing for? What problems do you have? First of all, I don't even think that this is actually taking place in the U.S. They said that they're trying to get a whole bunch of other, where is it? It's somewhere around here. They're trying to get proper U.S. licenses and stuff like that so that they can be, traded in the U.S., what have you. The fact that I don't understand what it is. Maybe these are all people who are constantly or have gotten into in cryptocurrencies when Bitcoin was fairly low. So they have huge amounts of Bitcoin and or Ethereum, and then the forks happen, and then they have tons of Bitcoin Cash and Ethereum Classic. Maybe that's just it. I'm so annoyed that we have so many coins, even just the top 30. The top 30 are usually noteworthy. Maybe top 35, and then a sprinkle of other ones around the top 100. Definitely notable coins. We hear about them so often, and I don't understand why you would want to get into the market or trying to be a market leader and you list the exact same things that every other exchange has. You know how you become different is you do things like Binance. You list tons of different coins. This is why Binance is number one. If you aren't happy with the top 100 coins and you feel like dealing in or dabbling in the number 151 or, 238th coin, you can definitely do that. This is why other things like Binance are succeeding. The point is, this is another exchange that's going to be opening. Sorry for ranting, but you have to also feel frustrated sometimes as well. I've said this multiple times before. I'm sure most people listening to these videos have a ton of altcoins and maybe just fractions of a Bitcoin, maybe 2 or 3 Ethereum, maybe 15 Ethereum. Maybe you got in early, maybe you got in lucky. But a lot of people have all the other coins. I don't understand the constant obsession with just offering 4 or 5 coins on your platform and then trying to tease that you may be adding other cryptocurrencies, just add them from the get-go. You know what that would cause if you had a proper cryptocurrency exchange where you could withdraw and put your stuff inside, link it to your bank account. You were able to trade in euros, dollars, Australian dollars, and Canadian dollars, and yen. And you also had all of these other things. You know how much hype you would get around your platform and how many people would be using you from the get-go? Don't understand. The point of this whole entire thing was that the co-founder of Uber is now launching a cryptocurrency exchange. It says somewhere in the bottom of it, somewhere around here, I think they're expecting to launch sometime by the end of October. Once again, we have the October time frame in the thing. I think all the major things that were supposed to have happened to cryptocurrency in the summer have kind of dwindled away, as everything is now just focusing on the beginning of the end of Q3. Continuing on the country hop, I know a lot of people don't care when I talk about Venezuela, but you may not care what's happening, but what they're doing is actually significant, and I don't mean significant as in me praising them, because a lot of other people had problems with me talking about Venezuela, thinking that I was saying that he was a genius. It comes down to the world is changing, and the fact that there's a country who has their own cryptocurrency. This is a cryptocurrency channel, so we talk about all the news that it has to do with it, but this is actually quite significant. It's this one and the upcoming stories as well. Venezuela is replacing its national currency, the Bolivar, with a new one that will be reportedly tied to the controversial Petro token. The new Bolivar Soberano, or Sovereign Bolivar, is to enter use in the country next month, according to an announcement on Wednesday from the country's president, Nicolás Maduro, as well as stating that the Sovereign Bolivar will be anchored to the oil-backed Petro, which was launched in February. Maduro said the country will strip 5 zeros from the Bolivar rather than 3, as had been initially planned. The move is aimed to counter soaring inflation that is expected to reach 1,000,000% this year. The article states that is absolutely insane. I don't know if you guys have had the time to watch any documentaries. I'm sure you've maybe seen it in the news as it flashes by, but if you have the time to actually watch what's happening in Venezuela, there are people walking around with wheelbarrows full of money, and they're going to the supermarkets, and the entire wheelbarrow will maybe buy 2 things of flour, a thing of water, and maybe like a couple of eggs. It's actually really insane what's going on there. So this is why they're stripping 5 zeros from the currency as opposed to just the 3 that were originally planned. According to a local news source, Telesur, the president said the economic reconversion will start on August 20th, definitely with the circulation and issuance of the new Sovereign Bolivar, the new monetary cone that is going to have a new method of anchoring the Petro, stating that the new cryptocurrency, that the currency will alter the financial situation of the country, is a radical manner. Maduro said, we have the correct version of the economic future of Venezuela, oh my gosh, it's really hot, of how Venezuela should be, and we will achieve it. The Petro, he said, will end up being consolidated technology and financially, and we will come to permeate all the national and international economic activity. So as it stands right now, not a lot of people thought this would succeed, but what ended up happening was, and I don't know how many of you once again were here too when I was talking about it, when they created their own cryptocurrency, there were a lot of talks about them talking to other countries who were under sanctions from the US. The president of Venezuela said in interviews that he thinks the entire reason why they're going through hyperinflation is not his fault, but he said that it is the US's fault for devaluing the barrels of petrol, and therefore devaluing the money or what wealth that the country had. So this was his only option to create a cryptocurrency, and the fact that this could possibly be then linked to the new dollar, or whatever they're going to call it, to their new cryptocurrency, is still obviously yet to be seen exactly what kind of effect this will have, if any, on the country. But I think we have other countries who are talking about making their own cryptocurrencies, and this is going to be an experiment to see if this ends up succeeding. I don't think it's going to do that well. I don't have, major hopes. I'm not expecting them to become the richest country in the entire world, but it'll be interesting to see over a 2-year period. I'm pretty sure other countries obviously know that this is happening as well. Like I said, when we get the news, Countries usually end up getting the news a couple weeks before, if not months before. So I'm pretty sure they're going to be looking very diligently to see exactly how the economy of the country ends up shaping up. If you are possible to create a cryptocurrency and then create a new currency and then peg it to that cryptocurrency, if you can go from 0 to maybe at least like 65, not 100, how well your country can end up doing. On the same exact note, Iran is also in the news because there's also now near certainty that they're also going to be trying to create their own cryptocurrency. Iran may soon issue its own cryptocurrency as a way to bypass new economic sanctions enacted by U.S. President Donald Trump. A plan to develop an indigenous cryptocurrency is currently on the agenda of the government's Science and Technology Department, according to Iran's official news outlet Press TV. Ali Reza Daliri, the department's deputy head in charge of investment affairs, said on Wednesday that the project is ongoing in cooperation with the Central Bank of Iran. He said, "We are trying to prepare the grounds to use a domestic digital currency in the country," Daliri was quoted as saying in the report. The cryptocurrency would back and tokenize Iran's national fiat currency, the rial, in order to facilitate domestic and cross-border transactions ahead of the U.S. sanctions, which go into effect next month. How quickly they plan on releasing this is kind of insane. The U.S. announced its withdrawal from a 2015 nuclear agreement with Iran in May, alongside the reactivation of economic sanctions that will restrict Iran's access to U.S. dollars starting from August 6th. Daliri said his department aims to integrate blockchain technology with the country's central bank over the next 3 months, rolling out a cryptocurrency for a general implementation across domestic commercial banks. The announcement aligns with the Iranian government's ongoing support for developing cryptocurrency and blockchain technology. How insane is that? I don't know, where was that? The fact that they plan on doing this in the next 3 months. Think of how long, and I mean really think of how long it's going to take the US to integrate blockchain technology into their central bank. We have at least about a 5 or 6 year period before that actually ends up happening. And the fact that they end up, first of all, I'm pretty sure that they've been in talks with a number of people. We know for a fact that Vitalik Buterin has been in talks with Russia about digital currencies and stuff like that. And we also had rumors that the digital ruble was probably also going to be built on top of Ethereum. Don't know where that's going. So I'm pretty sure like I said, a lot of other countries have definitely been in talks with other cryptocurrency projects. Regardless of what you may think about one country, there's always some developer out there who will definitely help any country build up their ecosystem, especially if they're going to be paying you $10, $15 million. You'll definitely help them doing it. The issue is that there are other countries who are dedicated to completely integrating cryptocurrency and blockchain technology into their systems. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. I think the US sees what's going on, but I still think that they don't get it. It's like, kind of like a deer in headlights. You see it coming. You don't think it's really going to hurt you until it kind of hits you, and then you kind of, get the full picture of exactly what's happened. When Venezuela was talking about creating their own cryptocurrency at the same exact time, we had stuff from Iran. We had stuff from, I want to say Pakistan. Don't quote me on that. We definitely had something from Russia. And there were 2 other countries who are under U.S. sanctions who have been talking about creating their own crypto. If Venezuela, I think the timing of it definitely fits. Venezuela trying to do this sometime in August or something like that, relatively soon, to release their new money. And then, August 20th, and then link it with this new dollar. And Iran's plan also to do this by, the something of August. I don't know exactly where it is. Anyway, the point is, 6th of August. I think everything is kind of tying together. I think they understand what's happening. I'm pretty sure there are other countries who are also probably doing this hush-hush. And we may not be hearing so much about them simply because they may be smaller countries, maybe a smaller population. Maybe there's not in the news as often. By 2019, I want to say mid-2019, I'm going to predict that we will have at least 15, if not 20 different countries around the world that have their own cryptocurrency. I think Dubai also has their own coin, if I'm not mistaken. I'm pretty sure you can Google it. Pretty sure they have their own coin. This is going to get very interesting very fast. I thought we still had at least 2 or 3 years before things like this happened, but I guess, sanctions and you can't use this and you can't do that, have a very interesting way of lighting a fire under you so that you end up doing something. But it's also very interesting that the creation of Bitcoin was meant to get us away from the powers that be, if you will. And it's interesting that it's actually, when the internet was created, people always say, we never thought that we would end up having smartphones. We never thought that we would be able to have apps that would be able to call someone from that app to be able to get a car, and one day a self-driving car that will be able to take us somewhere. So no one saw this at the advent of the internet, and no one saw at the beginning of when Bitcoin was created that this would also help other countries create their own cryptocurrencies that would help them get away from the power or the economic grasp of other countries that are controlling them. Isn't it? I mean, like I said, say what you will about certain countries. This isn't me praising these countries. I'm not talking about how great they are for integrating cryptocurrencies. I'm talking about that they kind of get it. They understand that these things were made to be able to have your own sovereignty in a sense, to get away from the powers that be in order to have your own sphere around you. Because realistically, we know that the US dollar is the king of the world. Other countries actually get penalized if they don't use the US dollar. You can look that up. That is not even fake news or FUD, whatever you want to call it. This is very real news. If you don't adhere to certain rules from the US or don't do what they say when they say, they put sanctions on you. And this is why we have other things like this happening now. So like I said, it'll be interesting to see over the next couple of years how many countries who were under sanctions from any other space who end up creating their own cryptocurrency and maybe even create some type of crypto economy amongst themselves. And it's entirely possible that we could see a world soon where we have 20, 25 countries who are or have created their own cryptocurrencies, have linked their bank systems together through blockchain, and then are just trading amongst themselves. Planes fly. They can definitely fly from one country to another. It'll be interesting to see if we end up having not a fragmented world, but a world where we have countries who are just trading with themselves through blockchain and other countries who are trading through still traditional means or through the backing of the US dollar. Like I said, this is going to be a country hop, so there's definitely a lot to talk about. I'm trying not to dig too deep because these conversations can definitely go on forever. Last up is India in the news. The Law Commission of India has recognized cryptocurrencies as a means of electronic payment. The pronouncement came during the Commission's recent feasibility study of the legitimacy of online gambling in the country. Cryptocurrency enthusiasts in India will most likely welcome this news given the negative view held by many government officials towards virtual currencies. I think I think a lot of countries have been told to have a negative view on it. This kind of coordinates with the entire thing from the CFTC and Korea. I think if you look deep into it, we have a couple of Nordic countries and a couple of countries in Asia who are trying to go digital, but I think they're trying to go digital in an opposite direction. I think their plans to go digital come before we had the birth of cryptocurrencies. And I think that they understand that, one, crypto doesn't have to be a threat. That's part of the issue, is that if we had some type of, not even clearance, if they just decided to kind of go the way that the rest of the world is moving, I think we would see something very different. But I think India especially, probably, has been told by other countries that this was also definitely a fad. Talk it down for quite some time. But there's a very large number of people in India who are getting into crypto, and I think they can't kind of stop the tide anymore. According to a report issued by the Law Commission, it said gambling transactions should be made cashless, making use of electronic means of payment such as credit cards, debit cards, net banking, virtual currencies, VC or cryptocurrencies, etc. India has been trying to go cashless for quite some time. As China, I think Sweden is also doing it. Denmark, if I'm not mistaken, there have been talks about it in other European countries, but I think the rest of Europe is too set in using physical currency, at least for the time being. Maybe have another 10, 15 years of that. The point is that I think this was a long time coming. We had other news as well from other countries. Whenever they were talking about or updating their laws about the legitimacy of this or that or whatever, and it had to do with heavy into finance, they made sure not to list virtual currencies or cryptocurrencies in their things as a way to kind of say that, no, you cannot touch these. These are not legal tender in our country. No one should even be talking about it. But I think we're slowly seeing, it's fascinating the way that the world is evolving and how we slowly see tiny baby steps from these countries who realize that they don't have a choice anymore. I've said this before, it's very odd. Bitcoin is only 9 years old. The rest of the crypto market is more or less 5 or 6 years old after the birth of all the other altcoins. It's just interesting to see how quickly that they have to now get in line because they understand that there's really no beating this system. Someone said it before, the only way to beat Bitcoin or the rest of the cryptocurrency market is to turn the internet off. We're so reliant on the internet, there's no way to do that anymore. Even if we have major power outages, other places in the world are still going to have this thing going on, and the age of purchasing digitally is definitely not going to end. We're not going to stop using our debit and credit cards or tapping for payments simply because governments want us to. Anyway, tiny bit more. The idea of cryptocurrencies gaining any form of recognition is one that appeals to crypto enthusiasts in the country. Commenting on the ruling, Nishal Shetty, who is the CEO of WazirX, a local cryptocurrency exchange platform, said, and I do quote, "It is the first time that a body appointed by the government has given recognition to virtual currencies, that they have value and can be used for a transaction. Therefore, it is a very positive sign, especially considering the report has come out after a lot of deliberation," end quote. Presently, virtual currency regulation is a significant topic in India. The Reserve Bank of India, or the RBI, the country's apex bank, has prohibited local banks from facilitating cryptocurrency transactions in the country. The situation has led to a public outcry with multiple suits filed to challenge the RBI ban, which is a shame because of the suits that were filed when they actually went to court. The court was literally like, we're not going to take anymore, and they kind of shut people out. I think they heard from 3 of the suits, and they ended up going nowhere. Kind of sad. The Supreme Court, after having been after having heard preliminary arguments on the case, recently fixed September 11th, 2018 as the date for delivering its decision on the matter. I am not hopeful. We heard from the Indian government that they would say something in April, and then they said they would say something in July, and now they're saying that they're saying something on September 11th. Who knows what's going to happen? There was even news before. There was another article I read about a day or two ago. Someone was saying it was an unmentioned source because it always has to be someone like standing in the shadows because politics. He was saying that he has word that no proper regulation will come for cryptocurrencies until the next 2 years in multiple different countries, simply because they don't want to legitimize the space. If we don't get anything by October 31st, as far as rules and regulations, this is all coordinated. There's no way on this earth. I told my friend, I said, when it comes to laws, the entire thing that it comes down to is money laundering and KYC. That can all be fixed relatively easily. If you're signing up to a cryptocurrency exchange, you have to give your name, you have to give your address. When it comes to anti-money laundering laws, it's the exact same thing. You say where you live, who's sending this money. You can't send more than 50,000 crypto across the exchange in one day. Done. That's completely what it comes down to. It doesn't take 8 months to give rulings or laws that pretty much can already cover the finance world that we already have. And especially in the US and many other countries, the SEC or the Securities Commission has been overlooking all of this, pretty much saying in multiple countries, not even just the US, that cryptos are probably going to just be securities or commodities. We already have laws for this. We've had laws for this in multiple countries, at least for 50 years, and all the other countries that have, caught up to what the US has made them do. They know what they're going to do. It takes maybe 3.5 months. I think that they're still hopeful or possibly of the mindset that crypto isn't going to last very long, that there could be some type of shift. I don't know exactly what they're planning, but I don't know. It's all very odd. And I think, and I'm sure you see it as well, that the fact that it has taken so long to give us any kind of laws, you could give basic laws. You can tell us crypto is this, crypto is that. You can't do this, you can't do that. Coinbase has all of these rules already, applied on top of them. Give us basic laws, and in a year and a half, give us something that's not as stringent or something that, we've looked deeper into it. This is what we're going to do. We're going to change. It doesn't take this long to give laws on cryptocurrencies. Anyway, that's 100% going to do it for this video. Like I said, something very weird is happening in the cryptocurrency space. I'm interested to see exactly what's going to come of the Venezuelan crypto and the Iranian crypto, and possibly I think We had news before that Russia was going to create their own crypto ruble, and I think Putin said that he didn't want it, and then he said that he wanted it again. And now I think as it stands, I think he doesn't want it, but the central bank is trying to get him to do it. Who knows exactly what's going on? We live in a very weird time. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you guys are having a great day. Morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, wherever you might be. Thank you once again for watching. I do appreciate it. It is very warm, and I will talk to you all soon. See you.